Want to make it rain? Well, let's create this inside After Effects. No plugins and no 3D modeling. Let's begin by importing the front and back images of our cash bill into After Effects. I created these images using Nano Banana 2, then cropped and prepared them inside Photoshop. You can use any design you like, as long as you have a front image and a matching back image. Select them together, then drag them onto the new composition icon. Make sure single composition is selected, and set the duration to around 20 seconds. Then click OK. I'm going to press Ctrl and K to open the composition settings, and I'll rename this composition Cache. Now select both layers and enable the 3D switch by clicking the cube icon. Before continuing, make sure the composition is using the advanced 3D renderer. We currently have the front and back images occupying exactly the same position, so we need to turn the back image around. Select the back layer and press R to open its rotation properties. Under Orientation, change the Y value to 180 degrees. Now press P to open the position property. Move the back layer approximately 1 pixel backward on the Z-axis. This small gap prevents the two images from overlapping while keeping them close enough to look like one object. You can select the Orbit Around Cursor tool and rotate the view to check the result. We now have a simple double-sided 3D cash bill created from only 2 flat images. No 3D modeling was required. Create another composition and name it Falling Cash. I'm using a full HD composition with a resolution of 1920 by 1080. Drag the cache composition into the new composition. Press S and reduce its scale until the size looks appropriate for your scene. Enable the 3D switch, and also enable collapse transformations by clicking the small sun-shaped icon. This allows After Effects to preserve the 3D properties contained inside the cache composition. Now duplicate the cache layer by pressing Ctrl and D. I'll create around 15 copies, but you can create more or fewer depending on how dense you want the cache rain to appear. To make positioning easier, switch the composition panel to 2 views. Keep one view on the active camera and change the other to the top view. Move all the cache layers above the camera frame. Then begin distributing them randomly across the X and Z axes. You can also enable Draft 3D while arranging the layers. This makes it easier to see and move objects that are currently outside the camera frame. Some bills should be close to the camera, while others should be farther away. Avoid creating an even grid. Real falling objects should feel irregular and unpredictable. You can also vary the scale slightly. Keep some bills larger and closer to the camera, and make others smaller and farther away. Next, select the bills individually and give each one a different starting rotation. Rotate them across the X, Y, and Z axes so they don't all face the same direction. This part can take a little time, so I'm going to speed it up. Once the bills are distributed, select all the cache layers and press P to reveal their position properties. At the beginning of the timeline, create a position keyframe for every layer. Move forward approximately 4 seconds. With all the layers still selected, drag the bills downward until they pass completely below the camera frame. Because we moved all the layers together, they will maintain the random spacing we created earlier. Now we need to add rotation. Press R while all the cache layers are selected. Create keyframes for the X, Y, and Z rotation properties at the beginning of the animation. Move forward to around 6 seconds and add another set of rotation keyframes. For the second keyframes, you can enter 1 full rotation on each axis. In After Effects, entering 1x creates 1 complete 360-degree rotation. However, we don't want every bill to rotate in exactly the same way. Go through some of the layers and change their rotation direction or amount. For example, one bill can rotate forward, another can rotate backward, and another can rotate more heavily around the Y-axis. These small differences make the animation feel much more natural. Press U to reveal all the animated properties. Select the keyframes and press F9 to apply Easy Ease. Now stagger the cache layers across the timeline. Move some layers slightly forward and others slightly backwards so they don't all begin falling at exactly the same moment. Preview the animation. If you notice a large group of bills falling together, adjust their position keyframes or move their layers farther apart in time. You can also shorten or extend individual rotation animations to add more variation. Continue making small adjustments until the movement feels random. We now have our basic falling cache animation. Now let's import the footage where we want the cache to appear. Drag the footage into the project panel, then drag it onto the new composition icon. I'm going to rename this composition Main since this will be our final composition. Next, we need to track the camera movement. Select the footage layer, open the animation menu, and choose Track Camera. After Effects will begin analyzing the shot. Once the analysis is complete, you'll see tracking points across the footage. You can increase the track point size if you need to see them more clearly. Look for a stable group of tracking points on a surface that represents the depth of your scene. Click and drag around several suitable points, then right-click and choose Create Null in Camera. After Effects will create a 3D camera that follows the movement of the original footage. My footage mainly contains a simple forward camera movement. For this particular shot, I simplified some of the camera animation while keeping the beginning and ending movement. This step is optional. Normally, you should keep the complete tracked camera, unless you have a specific reason to simplify it. Switch to 2 views again and use the top or right view to inspect the camera movement. You should now be able to see the tracked camera moving forward through the 3D scene. Drag the falling cache composition into the main composition. Enable the 3D switch and turn on collapse transformations. Position and scale the composition until the cache appears in the correct area of the scene. When we preview the animation, the cache falls correctly, but the animation eventually ends. To keep cache falling throughout the entire camera movement, duplicate the falling cache composition several times. Offset each copy in the timeline so that one group begins before the previous group finishes. Move the later copies upward so the bills enter naturally from above the frame instead of suddenly appearing in the middle of the shot. You should also distribute the copies through 3D space. Move some copies farther backward on the Z-axis and keep others closer to the camera. As the camera pushes forward, this creates multiple layers of falling cache at different depths. Move some copies slightly to the left or right as well. Even though every layer contains the same original animation, changing its position, timing, and depth prevents the repetition from becoming obvious. Bills that are closer to the camera should generally appear larger, while bills farther away should appear smaller. Keep checking both the active camera view and the top or right view as you arrange the layers. The goal is to surround the camera with cache while maintaining believable perspective. Once the timing and placement look good, we can begin blending the cache into the footage. At the moment, the cache exists inside the scene, but it still looks separate from the footage. To fix this, go to Layer, New Light. Change the light type to Environment. Then click OK. Open the environment light options and set its source to the footage layer. If the footage becomes hidden after selecting it as the source, turn its visibility back on using the eye icon. The colors and lighting from the footage will now influence the 3D cache. The result may initially look a little dark, so increase the environment light intensity until the bills match the brightness of the scene. Turn the light off and on to compare the difference. With the environment light enabled, the bills pick up more of the surrounding color and feel much more connected to the footage. Next, select the tracked camera and open its camera options. Enable depth of field. Adjust the focus distance until the important area of the cache is sharp. Then increase the aperture to strengthen the depth of field effect. You can also adjust the blur level to control the overall amount of blur. The closest bills should become slightly out of focus, and the bills that are very far away should also appear softer. The bills near the focal plane should remain sharp. This creates a much stronger sense of depth and helps the cache feel like it was actually captured by the original camera. Try not to make the blur too strong. We still want viewers to recognize the bills while feeling the difference between foreground, middle ground, and background. For the final blending step, create a new adjustment layer. Go to the Effects and Presets panel and search for CC Force Motion Blur. Apply it to the adjustment layer. This generates motion blur based on the movement inside the composition and helps soften the digitally sharp edges of the falling bills. Adjust the effect carefully, because high settings can increase render time. Now preview the final result. Not bad for 2 flat images. Subscribe before I drop.